Maybe we shall start waving. Everybody.
Today on this gorgeous morning in Lynchburg. So welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Lynchburg. We're glad you're here. Whoever you are, whatever your beliefs, whatever your age, and whomever you love, you are welcome here. If you have come here seeking a refuge, please trust that we are a safe place where you can find support. As we work together for justice, compassion, and peace, we acknowledge with humility that our buildings sit on traditional Monacan land. I'm Terry Bailiff. I'm the contract minister for this congregation, and I share the ministry with all of our members and friends. If you're here with us for the first time, we're glad you chose to be here this morning to participate in this service. If you would like to receive our monthly newsletter or Friday e-news updates, please fill out, if you're online, the virtual visitor card found on our website, uulynchburg.org under Sunday services. Or if you're in the sanctuary, fill out the yellow visitor card found in the back of the chair in front of you and just place it in the offering basket when it comes around. Two special welcomes this morning. Welcome my friend and colleague, Reverend Eve Stevens, who lives in Asheville, and she's there. And of course, always a welcome to, there you are, to Sean Farmer, the Director of Interfaith Outreach. We're particularly glad that the two of you could be here this morning. I hope everyone will join us for our Friendsgiving on November 23rd. That's this coming Saturday. So please look in the Friday e-news for a link to let us know you can attend and what you're planning on bringing. Is there a sign-up sheet in Drysdale? Sure. Okay. There may be one in Drysdale, or there'll be one coming. So look for that during social time. So now I invite us to do what we may particularly need to do today, and that is to just take some deep grounding breaths so that we can completely bring ourselves into this space. So let's greet one another. Zoomies, can you wave good morning to the roomies? Roomies, can you wave good morning to the Zoomies? It's wonderful to be here across time and space, or whatever quantum physics thing is happening with us today. Let us now join together in the chalice lighting words in the cover of your bulletin. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, O Spirit of life.
It's so good to be back with all of you. And that chalice lighting is just perfect. So in a moment, I am going to share a word with you. And it's sort of a word association game, if you're familiar. So you're just going to reflect silently to yourself. But when I say this word, I want you to just allow whatever images, memories, other words, experiences, whatever comes to your mind, just let that happen, not evaluating, well, what does this mean? Is it good or bad? Not trying to do anything with it yet, but just allowing whatever surfaces to surface. So the word is power. Power. And now honest answers, just in that flash, you hear the word. If positive things came to mind, good memories, thoughts about people you admire, that type of thing. I'm not going to test you or call on you or anything. But would you raise your hand if positive experiences came to mind mostly or first? That's great. Thank you. And if negative things mostly or first came to mind when you hear the word power, would you raise your hand? Thank you so much. Thank you. So Professor of Psychology, Dasher Keltner, writes in his book, The Power Paradox, power defines the waking life of every human being. It is found not only in extraordinary acts, but also in everyday interactions. Indeed, in every interaction and every relationship, be it an attempt to get a 2-year-old to eat green vegetables, or providing an opportunity to someone, asking a friend the right question to stir creative thought, or calming a colleague's rattled nerves, or directing resources to someone in need. Power, he says, is the medium through which we relate to one another. And with that in mind, let's sing together, rising in body and or spirit, number 6 in the gray hymnal, Just as Long as I Have Breath.
Invite all those who are young at heart to come forward and join us.
Good morning. Hello. We have such a good book this morning. Can you sit back a little bit so everybody can see? So in RE this month, we have been talking about repair and how repair can help heal things. And this week, we are going to be talking about how kindness is a great tool for repair. So I have this really good book today. It's called Be Kind. And I think you'll notice lots of purple in this book. So I hope you like the color purple.
Yes, I do.
Tanisha spilled grape juice yesterday. Man, look, it went everywhere. All over her new dress. Everyone laughed. I almost did too, but Mom always tells me to be kind. So I tried, but I don't think it worked. I said, "Purple is my favorite color." I thought Tanisha would smile, but she ran into the hall instead. When she came back, snack time was over. She put on her art smock and didn't look at anyone. I almost told Tanisha that art was my favorite class, but I didn't want her to leave again. So I painted purple splotches and added some green until I had a bunch of beautiful violets. While I painted, I thought about Tanisha. Should I have handed her my napkin? Let her borrow my sweatshirt? Spilled my juice so everyone stared at me instead?
I know.
What does it mean to be kind anyway? Maybe it's giving. Making cookies for Mr. Rinaldi who lives alone. Letting someone with smaller feet have my too tight shoes. He might even win races with them too. Maybe it's helping. Putting dirty dishes in the sink. Cleaning up after Otis, our class guinea pig. He's a messy eater. Maybe it's paying attention, telling Desmond I like his blue boots, asking the new girl to be my partner, listening to Aunt Fanny's stories, even the ones I've heard before, a lot. Being kind should be easy, like throwing away a wrapper or recycling a bottle or saying, "Thank you, bless you." My mom says the quickest way to be kind is to use people's names. Hey, Kayla, what's new, Omar? Good afternoon, Rabbi Mandelbaum. Being kind can be hard too, even when you know what to do. Teaching someone something I'm good at is tricky, even when I'm patient. See, I think she's trying to teach her baby sibling how to read, but he's got jam hands. And sticking up for someone when other kids aren't kind is really hard, and it can be really scary. Maybe I can't solve Tanisha's grape juice problem. Maybe all I can do is sit by her in art class and paint this picture for her, because I know she likes purple too. Maybe I can only do small things, but my small things might join small things other people do. And together, they could grow into something big, something really big, so big that all our kindnesses spill out of our school, spread throughout town, travel across the country, and go all the way around the world. Right back to Tanisha and me, so we can be kind again and again
And again,
and again.
and again.
And look, Tanisha took her picture home and hung it on her wall. I bet she felt really cared about when her friend made that for her. So upstairs in RE today, we're going to be talking about the ways that we can use kindness as a tool to help make repair in the world. So should we go get started on that? Yeah. All right, let's do it.
It's such a joy to have Sean Farmer here again today. Sean is such an important person in our community because she tirelessly works not only for IOA, but to get different parts of our community to be in communication with each other, to talk, to support one another. So Sean, thank you for being here. Would you like to tell us about IOA? I didn't know if you wanted to stand behind something or just stand in front of the microphone. Yeah.
Thank you for once again inviting me to be here with you all. We, as Interfaith Outreach Association, started in 1982 officially, but we go back to the 1960s when we were a program of Lynchburg Covenant Fellowship. And the faith community realized that there were some things they could not do alone, and that we were better together. That when it comes to helping the most vulnerable in our community, if we all work together and pool our resources together, that is a better, more efficient way to serve the most vulnerable. And so with that, Kumbaya was born. We later became Interfaith Outreach Association. And here we are today, starting with 20 member congregations all the way up to 84 member congregations, which we have today. And our programs continue to this day, ones that we started with, emergency assistance, helping people stay safely together in their homes with their family, preventing evictions and utility terminations, our free furniture program. We still have our program where we go into the jail and teach life skills classes for men and women in Lynchburg and Amherst, and that is thriving. We still have our Rebuilds program that just celebrated 10 years, where we do simple home repairs for elderly and disabled so that they can stay safely in their home without worrying about falling. And it seems that when there is a need in the community, for whatever reason, Interfaith Outreach is one of the main groups that steps up to meet that need. If you remember the Virginian, a lot of you, when it closed as an affordable housing unit, and all of the people in there had to be relocated. We stepped up to the plate and we served as the fiscal agent to be able to manage the finances so that people could get where they needed to get safely with zero homelessness as a result of that. And there were 100 families in there. And so very, very grateful that we, the smallest, yet the mightiest, and the one with the most passion sometimes, were willing to go the extra mile for our neighbors in need. Then go to the pandemic, when everything shut down, people could not work, prices began to rise. When it was time to help people pay their rent and utilities, who was it that stepped up to the plate again to be able to manage a lot of the financial assistance from COVID that was made available for those to stay safely in their home? The smallest, yet again, jumps up because we're people of faith and because we value the most vulnerable and we wanted to make it happen. Same with our new homeless prevention program that we have had now for 2 years, where we're working with people to bridge the gap, helping those within hours, many times, of becoming homeless, getting them into housing or preserving their housing, which often requires my handwriting a check, hopping in the car on a Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock before the realtor closes to stop the loss of housing for someone. And we do it every time, every time. And so we have a new opportunity that we would love to have you all be involved in. Once again, if you've seen the reports throughout our community, we have had a tremendous surge in homelessness since COVID. And so many people are living outside, either in abandoned buildings or in cars or just outside. And there's not enough resources to be able to house them or take care of them. And so once again, someone came to us and said, hey, would you consider doing this program, which would provide rent assistance for people that are homeless, valuing the most vulnerable? And you will see more about this in our newsletter in December that's coming out, but you're getting a sneak peek right now. And so we applied for the grant and we received it. And so we're happy to say that in 2025, we're going to be launching a program called Home Again, which is going to be a rent assistance program to once again valuing the most vulnerable, be able to get them in housing and then lift them up so that they can be independent and thrive again. But we need your help. We need your help, because that's what Interfaith Outreach is about. It's not just one person, it's the community collaborating with this. And there's so many things that you can do. One of the things we're doing with our furniture program, we're looking for volunteers to work with families to get them the furniture that they need. It requires zero lifting, okay? But yet sort of being the sales associate for people when they come into our warehouse and show them, you know, what their options are and help them make choices so that they can turn their house into a home. And that's one of the biggest things that you can do. Another thing that we're going to be looking for are volunteers to help people get situated in their home with everything that they need to be able to thrive, not just rent, but also with things like making sure they're signed up for medical benefits, making sure that they're signed up for the food pantries that are in the community, making sure that everything that is available for them out there, that they're taking advantage of, and they have a cheerleader of sorts with that. And so we continue to be inspired by our congregations such as the Unitarian Universalist congregation, who love all people and everyone is welcome. And we transfer that into the most vulnerable in our community, which now in some instances is the homeless. And so we do look forward to your continuing to support us in everything we do, whether it's through the rent and the utility assistance, whether it's heating assistance for the elderly, whether it's volunteering in the jails with people, or helping in any other way. We're very, very grateful, and we thank you for everything that you do.
So we take an offering of our gifts. Today, our offering is both for the work of our community and the work of Interfaith Outreach. If you're writing a check and you want it to go to Interfaith Outreach, please put that in the memo. If you're online, you can either send a check to the congregation or you can use PayPal. But please make sure you mark your donations for Interfaith Outreach. They do such an incredible job. In our congregation, we share together in love, behold today, the wonder and mystery of this life. Beyond our fears, our anxieties, our worries about the world and those we love, may we remember all the beauty, wonder, and mystery that is also part of life. We hold up today especially those who are suffering in mind, body, or spirit, that they may find healing and wholeness. We hold up today the work that is ours to do in the world. We know that we cannot fix everything, but there is work for us to do to help heal that which is broken, to rebuild our communities, to offer love and compassion and kindness to those we encounter. This we ask in the name of all that is sacred. Amen. Thank you, Emily. Our reading this morning is from the Reverend Dr. Rebecca Ann Parker, entitled Choose to Bless the World. Your gifts, whatever you discover them to be, can be used to bless or curse the world. The mind's power, the strength of the hands, the reaches of the heart, the gift of speaking, listening, imagining, seeing, waiting. Any of these can be used, any of these can serve to feed the hungry, bind up wounds, welcome the stranger, praise what is sacred, do the work of justice, or offer love. Any of these can draw down the prison door, hoard bread, abandon the poor, obscure what is holy, comply with injustice, or withhold love. You must answer this question. What will you do with your gifts? Choose to bless the world. The choice to bless the world is more than an act of will, a moving forward into the world with the intention to do good. It is an act of recognition, a confession of surprise, an acknowledgement that in the midst of a broken world, unspeakable beauty, grace, and mystery abide. There is an embrace of kindness that encompasses all life, even yours. And while there is injustice and evil, there moves a holy disturbance, a benevolent rage, a revolutionary love, protesting, urging, insisting that which is sacred will not be defiled. Those who bless the world live their life as a gesture of thanks for this beauty and this rage. None of us alone can save the world. Together, that is another possibility waiting. Thank you for being with us this morning, Eve.
Thank you for having me, everyone, and allowing me to be part of your service. Wonderful to see thus far. I love going to the movies, no matter how convenient they make it to watch at home. There's just nothing like sharing the emotional arc of a larger than life story with strangers. Looking around in the dim light to see on the looks on each of their faces that we are indeed having an experience together. Now, if you are among those who think that Hollywood has put out a few too many superhero and comic book related movies in the past decade, I will not disagree with you. But I also have been to see most of them and liked a few of them. But of the plethora of movies based on comic books that I have seen, my favorite series is the X-Men. And as a child of the 90s, I watched the X-Men on Saturday mornings in cartoon form. But you may not be as familiar, or maybe it's been a while. So I just want to introduce you to a few of the characters, a few of the X-Men. There's Rogue. And when Rogue is a teenager, she begins discovering that through touch, she has the power to absorb the physical and the psychic energy of others. So this is obviously terrifying. And she's uncertain of what it all means, afraid to stand out in her small community. So she runs away from her small Mississippi town. And for a long time, she wears gloves and a scarf and a hoodie at all times, hiding herself from the world, ashamed, scared, and also uncertain of who might get hurt if she utilized her full powers. Then there's Cyclops. After the death of both of his parents, Cyclops spent most of his childhood in the state home for foundlings in Omaha, Nebraska. And the adults who are charged with caring for young Cyclops either abuse or neglect him. And by the time he runs away from the state home, Cyclops has discovered that he can actually shoot concentrated laser beams through his eyes, blowing up things with a glance. But he has all this deep emotional distress, and the turbulence of his inner world keeps him from being able to control or make productive use of his powers. And finally, of course, there's Wolverine, who you may have heard of. He has a heightened sense of smell. He's able to heal his own wounds in a matter of seconds. And he has the ability to produce claws when threatened. And Wolverine, as much as the rest of them, struggles under the weight of his superhuman abilities. He spends long periods of time drinking himself into a stupor, just not sure how to face the responsibility or the possibility that comes with his powers. of these characters is lost in their own way until Charles Xavier, or Professor X, as he becomes affectionately called, finds them one by one and gives them a home at the Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters. And there in this school for gifted youngsters, they take courses like leadership tactics and the ethics of power alongside English and science and drama. Professor X gently teaches the scared and troubled youth who come into his care that these abilities that they are harboring are actually not something to hide from, but rather gifts instead. Professor X teaches that instead of simply serving their own changing or impulsive interests, these superhuman beings can find a sense of purpose and peace by using their powers in service to the greater good. So despite their ability to produce claws or shoot laser beams out of their eyes, the X-Men are not unrelatable. Even on a good day, we can't lift cars with our minds, but like the X-Men, we too harbor strengths and abilities and doubts about how to make use of them. Like Rogue, we too have been known to hide integral, sparkling, colorful aspects of what makes us who we are. Our fear of rejection sapping the energy we might use to show up honestly in the world and set others free. Like Cyclops, we're still learning to navigate the turbulent inner workings of our emotion, still figuring out how to act the deep well of power in our feelings without getting lost in them. Sometimes, like Wolverine, we're just really good at something, but it's somehow easier to numb ourselves rather than use our powers in public, so afraid that we might fail. We too wrestle with whether or not we should ignore our gifts because they demand something inconvenient, intimidating, or life-altering. Earlier, when I was asking you, when you hear the word power, what comes to your mind? I identified with those of you who first conjured negative connotations to power. When I hear the word power, the first images that come to mind are troubling. And when I hear that word, the other words that come to mind are corruption, manipulation, and abuse. It's hard to feel that I myself have power. And it's hard for me to even decide whether or not it's a good thing to have power at all. But in the comic book context, if you look up what powers a superhero has, you find a list of their skills, their abilities, their strengths, whatever it is that makes them who they are. And if we think of our powers as our unique collection of gifts or strengths, ways of seeing, ways of knowing, then power is simply the use of those abilities to affect the world around us. Simply the use of our abilities to affect the world around us. Whether it's playing the piano, or teaching algebra, or listening with patient compassion to somebody who's in pain. I recently heard a StoryCorps interview between a man named Alexei Romanov and his husband, David Farah. In the course of their conversation, Alexei recounts this story of the person who helped him uncover and start using his ability to love in public. So Alexei Romanov grew up knowing that he was gay. And in his New York City neighborhood of the late 1950s, he was able to find the company of their best to support one another in a world that didn't seem to like the very idea of their existence. At 14, Alexei began frequenting a beautiful space not far from his childhood apartment called Bryant Park. And there he met a kindly man in his mid-80s who shared his own stories of what it had been like to grow up gay in a small town in the 1890s. Alexei and his friends came to call this kindly older man Mother Bryant. Growing up, Mother Bryant had refused to hide the fact that he was gay. He'd been so ostracized by his community. As a result, he'd have to leave home for good. And Alexei remembered thinking as a kid how brave Mother Bryant was to be honest about who he was, to love himself fiercely enough that the disapproval or rejection of others seemed to somehow just make him stronger. Well, Alexei Romanov grew up and met a man that he wanted to move in with. However, at the time, it was illegal in New York City to rent an apartment to two men who were not related. So when the prospective landlord said to Alexei, "What's the relationship between you two?" Alexei was scared for a moment, but then he remembered Mother Bryant. And he remembered that Mother Bryant had once said, "When you are getting ready to leave this earth as I am, if you haven't left your community in a better place than you found it, you haven't lived." So Alexei took a deep breath and he replied to the landlord, "He's my partner and my lover." After a long pause, the landlord said, "Okay, here's the key." Alexei looked up and said, "Thank you, Mother Bryant. I will never lie about being gay again." Mother Bryant discovered his ability to love himself without shame. And in using that ability, being himself in public, loving openly, he unlocked his power to set others free too. Whatever abilities or strengths we find in ourselves, they do not become powers, energy that can change the world around us until we use those abilities and strength. Power is not real, in other words, until it's exercised, it's used. Our gifts, even if we are fully aware of their presence, may lie dormant and unused inside of us. Our creativity, as vibrant as it seems, cannot bring something beautiful to life or challenge an old idea until we create. Our compassion, as alive as it may feel, cannot shelter someone else in the moment of uncertainty until we speak and act with compassion. Our curiosity definitely makes life more interesting, but it cannot guide exploration through a seemingly unsolvable problem until we voice it. Our music, while still inside of us, cannot move others. Rebecca Parker asks, what will you do with your gifts? And she implores us, choose to bless the world. Blessed be. Amen. And now we're going to sing together again. And Terry and I were talking about it. We decided we all like to sing. So we're going to sing all of the verses of hymn number 170 in the gray hymnal, We Are a Gentle, Angry People.
That, so we're just going to sing. As our service draws to a close, we extinguish the flame of our chalice as we share these words together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Well, it's that time to wave goodbye. Roomies, can you say goodbye to our Zoomies? Zoomies, say goodbye to our roomies. Don't forget to hang around for Zoom social time. And Eve, thank you so much for being with
Thank
us.
you. Thank you all so much for having me. And I leave you only with these words from A.A. Milne and Winnie the Pooh, who says, promise me you'll always remember you're braver than you believe and stronger than you seem and smarter than you think. And I'll see you all in January.
Thank you, Eve. Go in love and go in peace.